Hi, everybody. Hope everybody's doing reasonably well. This is a couple of questions from Janie Brown. And she says, can you talk about the impact that engaging with the Bible or Christian prayers has on our spiritual growth? For instance, when reciting the Lord's Prayer with presence, can it have the same similar effects as a life map? More powerful? If so, is this because Christianity and other religious orientations alike have been engaged for thousands of years and therefore have an accumulation of energy connected to them? Could the life map one day acquire the form of life or this type of energy because of our engagement with it? Has it already? Interesting question. Don't think it's as simple as that, although it appears to be from time to time. Whatever so-called belief system that you have, spiritual belief system that you have, and whatever you read, or you might call whenever you're involved with other folks, in whether it be a church or whatever kind of prayer area that you might be involved with. The thing that is really important about those ways of engaging, even two people together, engaging with something beyond themselves, it becomes a key thing. The dilemma is, and I'm talking about a relationship with a belief system, right? Because all of these systems are belief systems focused on a pivotal source, something that allows one to think that that might be more spiritual than themselves somehow. What begins to occur is there is a focus on something beyond the personality or the ego states. That can be pretty tenuous at times, because sometimes belief systems have an ego state. And I think this is really a little hard for us to understand. You have a bunch of believers who believe that only one belief, and that's theirs, is more important than other beliefs. This happens all over the world. It's not extra special to anybody. And that becomes an ego state construction that relates to individuals who are functioning on these planes. This can be a powerful thing in relationship to these planes. And this is fundamentally what we often do as individuals when we're engaging with something. What I've tried to show you with the life map is that, first of all, you're trying to get an engagement beyond the ego state. This is very difficult. And here's the reason why. When your hands are pointed towards each other, trying to open these hands by a method called not trying, it doesn't make any sense. Except that if you're attempting to perceive the energy that can happen between two hands and turn the hands on, as we've talked about so many times, then what you're beginning to try to understand, very difficult to, still, because of our experiential levels and the self-validation levels that we underline all the time. In other words, if you can do it better than your neighbor can, then you're extra special, more important than they are. And this is a relationship with belief. Does not mean you're more important than anybody. But what it does mean is that you are engaging with energy as you're attempting to go beyond the ego state. It's very difficult for folks, because we need the assertions of value that are necessary to feel as if you're kind of extra special. Not special, extra special. Everyone is special because they have within them the capacity or potential to engage with a state that is very much beyond the state that we naturally and normally engage with, which focuses on and exemplifies a relationship that we believe is a system related to our personality. In other words, we believe we're important if we can do this or that or the other thing. And that is a natural state here on these planes. So the same is true of beliefs in almost anything. What is different is the experience of an engagement with a different level. And that level does not underline the personality. This is the dilemma. And in fact, you can see that this is a little outside, it's an outlier of how things could be, should be in our way of engaging with the world. Real hard to do if you become really able. You need others to know it. No, you don't. Because of this reason. If you engage and become more able internally, and that energy is flowing in a gentle, kind of balanced manner, your personality doesn't become underlined too much. What occurs is you begin to perceive differently. And you perceive that there's something other than, at least in a rudimentary way, other than you engage with you. Now here's a problem. And it is a difficult thing. The first level of engaging with energy is perceiving the energy of you. So if you're really intense, energy will be intense in you. If you can soften it down, if you're in the medium level of intensity, it will be medium-ish intense in you. You'll perceive that, because that's the nature, I should say, of learning. So first you perceive the nature of the energetic nature of you. Well, if it's really strong from your perspective, then you will call yourself really strong. This is a dilemma. And this is one of the biggest difficulties that many of the ancients had to deal with. Understanding something beyond what the personality needs to have within them for the purpose of being valued. And that relates very much to our training and our basic backgrounds around belief and our needs, wants, and our desires. No one wants to be unnoticed in the scheme of things as valuable. But strangely enough, higher state beings go unnoticed because most of our focus as a normal individual lies directly in relationship to how we assess things. It's all about belief. our versions of how that value must be, could be. So the opening of the hands, for example, as many times I've said, relates directly to the opening of the system inside you. Another way to engage with it, you could say, well, if I have my brow center on more than anybody else, that means if this is true, the brow center will help other centers to open. Yes, it's true. But if you're opening your brow center and you believe that your brow center is more superior to others, then your version of you describing how you're functioning is related to an ego drive or self-evaluation based on how important you need to be more important to other people, more important than other people. You see, this is the dilemma that we all relate to. But when you're talking about belief systems in a church or a mosque or a tent someplace in the wilds, in a tribe of some kind in New Guinea, and no tent may be there, it may be constructed just by wood, lots of wood there. And here you go. You have to be more important than those guys because we're in a modern world and we understand stuff and all the rest. It is possible that someone in New Guinea can have a tremendous amount of engagement with that which is beyond them. I said possible. Whereas it might be just as hard for us to have that focus because our focus is on us being more valuable than somebody else because this is what we think, or that is what we think. Therefore, we're superior. We may be superior in relating to flying a plane, but often, not always, but often really able beings don't let anybody know they're able. They don't mind being in a corner because they understand this one thing. And this goes for churches and mosques, wherever places of prayer or softening of the ego drive occurs. You think about things beyond who you are and where you are. And that is something that happens in a church. Yes, other things happen in a church too. You might be really important because you go there every day. But that's you. That's solidifying your ego drive. Or you might ache to go there every day. What you're looking for is something beyond you. And that church is a symbol of something that may be on you from your perspective, your relationship with a belief. There's no negation in that, except when you start beating up on other forms. Higher states don't do that. We do that. We have ideas about what might be better than other things. This is not a negative thing. This is what every individual does in their lives. And they ache to reach into a place beyond the place where they are involved with in a context related to a personalization, we call it personality, and a view, a landscape of life that is ordained to be valuable so that the personality can be solidified in some manner that makes sense to us. It's a process of being okay with yourself. We do this for a reason, because we're vulnerable. All of us. All across the world. However, we don't like that state. And we couldn't blame anybody for not liking a state of feeling vulnerable all the time. However, when you're talking about this versus that, we're not engaging in a relationship with higher state. We're talking about a relationship with our own self, because this is our training. And you can hear the words of your trainers. This is more valuable than that. That is more valuable than this. Because a version of belief tends to move us in a direction. And we have our emotional difficulties as well, dealing with uncomfortable feelings. Life itself is not always easy to be comfortable with in our relationship with it, I mean. And we all know that we move in a direction. We move in a direction that relates to not being here. And this is just reality. What is the old statement? Classical used to be a joke. Nobody gets out of here alive. Well, perhaps that's not as true as what we think. One could say, depending on how you think. So keep in mind that what you're trying to do is perceive that energy in and around you that relates directly to how you love yourself. That's our personality dialogue. And move towards, somehow, an engagement with a deeper kind of recognition or perception of something beyond that love, which can be perceived by us, and has been from time to time by some. But the ego dynamic has to be receptive and susceptible to being okay with being outside the limits of our personality diagrams for at least a second or two. And in that second or two, tremendous levels of loving, quiet, peace, whatever words you attempt to use. Some might call the moment of sublimity, depending on what literature you read. But many folks try to understand that. And what I'm trying to say here is, you move towards engaging with that 24/7 in your way, not somebody else's way. And that way relates to being able to notice you being okay with your warts, with your ways of expressing, and seeing it for what it is, a process of training, and not negative, but kind of in the way of allowing yourself to be comfortable in a place different than it decides or designs you should be. This is difficult for us, but we're learning. You can go and sit in a place of worship, no matter what it is and what belief system it has, and you will sense and feel kind of a link that's being cultivated there in an attempt to go beyond themselves, whoever is there, wherever that may be. And there is a difference if there is that kind of a link. And it's different than the link that says we're the only ones who have that capability. That's an individual's way of looking at things. And groups of people have that kind of individuality or symbolic reference. And that is related to the personality's version of an engagement with loving that is related to self-love. This happens to all of us. Anyone who has it is not negative. What's negative is what you do next. Beating up on other people doesn't help. That's not so positive. Anyway, just stuff to think about. Yes, the energy that can pass through from another state can be exceedingly helpful, but it still has to get past a personality's version that relates to that individual being a stalwart and the only one that can happen to. This is not related to anything other than belief and personalizations that awkwardly enough symbolize a non-engagement with higher state. But that is not exactly true. Each and every one of us is engaged from my perspective, remember, just my perspective, engaged with a love that relates to allowing us to move through us in a growing process to get to a point where you can allow yourself to uncover something beyond what you already think has to be there. How you do that, of course, is asking questions, but also taking a look at how you respond when you are vulnerable and recognizing that you respond in various different ways. Sometimes very intensely because you're protecting against vulnerability. Sometimes softer because you've grown a little bit somehow along the line, not necessarily defined well by you or anybody else for that matter, but something has changed. And the need you might begin to understand for something internal that might be within your ability to perceive. A kindness in relationship to you beginning to understand that you are growing and you are growing through you. That is not a negative thing. And there's no judgment in that. There's just recognition. And a willingness on our parts to continue into a place where at least we can see from time to time a remarkable difference. And then we slowly begin to understand recognition of differences is a distinct possibility. And therefore, that recognition is an aspect of growth. Keep it in the back of your mind, and you'll see other things there. You'll see pride. You'll see responses, reactions. And you'll see that you can't relate to some things because you can't yet. Don't let that be an impediment through judgment. Everyone is in a process of growth. I really don't care who it is. And that need to grow in our world is high. And the interpretation of what that means is very difficult. It's not always clear. As you experience it, it becomes a little clearer. Keep it to yourself. Look for the next moment that helps you to understand it. Put the moments together, and an understanding will begin to be clearer. Yet, every day you live life the way you live life. Hopefully with a smile or two, and the recognition that sometimes smiling is very difficult. Janie, a very difficult question, but the next one's worse. One day I will get even with you. I will smile when you're laughing. And you'll wonder what I'm smiling about. That's the danger. Just teasing you. There is something, Janie says, about the concept of what's beyond the universe, or even what came before the beginning of the universe. That is paralyzing. This is Janie. When I really allow my mind to expand into the idea of how big the universe is, sometimes the follow-up question is, right, but what's beyond that? If I look at the concept of God, it's like, but what created God? Now this is the process of thinking. This is a logical engagement. There's something that completely takes my breath away when this idea clicks into place. It literally stops me in my tracks and almost freezes time in a way. Time within herself. It certainly makes everything else in comparison seem completely irrelevant. Bigger questions always do that. You don't get an answer. You don't get an answer for them. What you get is emptiness, quiet, because there's no perfect answer. But there are beliefs, not perfect answers. It's hard to put into words, but in any case, I'm wondering what that's about. I think I wrote a little bit. I'm not even sure that I can even write it or speak about it that way, but our personality needs reference points. One moment to the next, to the next, to the next. Whatever questions you come up with needs reference points. The creative value within us for the purpose of being able to eventually, past an answer you get, to move into another state. And that state is referential. It's a state which poses another question. And that is an engagement with our kind of emotional, logical mind. In some ways, where we are as a species, that is a good thing, because it makes us realize that we have a tremendous difficulty coming up with answers to bigger questions. And when we face those questions, we start to legitimize belief constructs. This is not negative at all. This is what we do. And in that legitimacy, we lean back away from a susceptibility to an answer, if that is even possible, to such a question. I remember I was just a kid, probably about 18 or 19 years old. I think I was 18 anyway, where a few of us got together and we went out west. And in Saskatchewan, there was a place where we could get off the road. We didn't have very much money, but we wanted to go west because we had never been there before. So we slept in the car. It was 4 of us. And we got out. It was a beautiful night. Stars were just blasting. This wondrous sense of openness. And we're sitting there on this car, on the not the roof, but the hood. And we're looking up like this, trying to see as much as we possibly could. A couple of guys named some constellations. I knew a couple, so I named them. But then, after that episode of value, we call personality stuff, it was a quiet, a tremendous silence for about half an hour. And it was like as if something slipped in time. And we looked at each other, and almost all together we said, "What was that?" It was as if this whole process of thinking was gone and it was right back again. We didn't know what it was, and we still didn't know what it was. But it was as if we were not there on that hood anymore. We were not there. And our minds were empty and receptive. Strange. And then we were back into ourself and engaging and worried, concerned, nervous. Might have been a little bit scared, but we're not going to say that. And none of us, even though we all had the similar experience, understood what had happened. We never talked about it again because we didn't know what it was. And at 18, 19, 20, and one of them was 20 years old, nobody wanted to talk about being nervous or a little bit fearful about something that occurred to all 4 of us roughly at the same time, within the half-hour period. When ideas are large, there seems to be a movement towards speaking everything you think you can speak out to make yourself feel comforted by what you know or how you feel and all the rest of it. And then there's a quiet. It may not happen to everybody. But when it does happen, it happens because you ran out of you into a place where you were truly receptive. Not being used to that, it feels as if you're almost empty. And your personality has a reflex response to that. Hopefully I'm not going to get a whole bunch of people running around and saying that I was almost empty last week. It can happen to all these kinds of things can happen because we just want to be okay. But when these things, bigger questions happen, your mind takes a bit of a stretch, my opinion, and you become a tiny bit more receptive. Doesn't mean you have the right answer. You just become more receptive, which opens the mind past the intensity that is needed to protect the way you think you need to be protected in life to function in a way that is your way. And your way is just a way, just a method of function. And you will use that same method of function. Sometimes knowing what it is, sometimes not knowing what it is, for a purpose that relates directly to you, comforting yourself. That is the nature of not only learning, but the mode of thinking that we can be involved with at this particular time in our development. This is very fascinating to me. I'm sure it's fascinating to some of you as well, because it really shows you a little about yourself. It moves you towards a level of compassion or caring for other folk in spite of their foibles. And caring for you, knowing full well it's okay for you to become a learner and a grower internally beyond the design that you already have picked out for yourself unknowingly and knowingly. And it's uncomfortable to feel quiet inside as you grow, not needing to express this design form as much as you've been trained to express it in a certain manner that relates back into the past or anticipations of a future, and recognizing and being in a moment that is designed to help you to stretch beyond the notable and the unnotable things that make up a personality. And that's not related to division and putting yourself down or others either. It's in relationship to a kind of perception. It doesn't make you any better than anyone else. It enables you to recognize that you're not any better than anybody else, in spite of what you've been trained to engage with as your version, wherever that may be, of how you need to be superior. Or, I'm going to just say this, valuable enough to be considered worthy of an engagement with a higher state, a God state, a unity with a wonderful relationship with higher states. Because already you're worthy, and so is everyone around you, in spite of what you think or don't think. Because we are all in a growing process and all affected by each other and the intensities that go with that for purposes that are intermittently engaging with belief systems that need to be there so that we can feel comforted in the in-between times of growth. Attempting, of course, not to put anybody else's versions down. This is hard for us. It's not something that history has helped us with at all. But a worthwhile question or questioning that might just tickle a different understanding to come up beyond what we believed in our distant past. And that relates to just being more important than other people. Other people are important too, but it's a hard one to come up with. I wish you well. I think we're going to meditate now, because the next question is going to get me into another area. So I think we'll meditate, and I wish you well with that. I hope everyone is doing the best they can. Sometimes things are really difficult pressures. And it would be hard for any of us to deal with those kinds of pressures. For those of you who are suffering through very difficult pressures, we all wish you the very best. Please take care of yourselves. I'll now begin to meditate. Marlene's going to put some music on for us. Good night, everybody. I'll come back and close off the meditation.
रत्नैः कल्पितमासनं हिमजलैः स्नानं च दिव्याम्बरम् नानारत्नविभूषितं मृगमदा मोदाङ्कितं चन्दनम् जाति चम्पकबिल्वपत्ररचितं पुष्पं च धूपं तथा दीपं देवदयानिधे पशुपते हृत्कल्पितं गृह्यताम् घृतं पायसम् भक्ष्यं पञ्चविधं पयोदधियुतं रम्भाफलं पानकम् शाकानां यतं जलं रुचिकरं कर्पूरखण्डोज्ज्वलम् ताम्बूलं मनसा मया विरचितं भक्त्या प्रभो स्वीकुरु छत्रं चामरयोर्युगं व्यजनकं चादर्शकं निर्मलम् वीणाभैरिमृदङ्गकोहलकला गीतं च नृत्यं तथा साष्टाङ्गं प्रणतिः स्तुतिर्बहुविधा एतत् समस्तं मया सङ्कल्पेन समर्पितं तव विभो पूजां ग्रहाण प्रभो आत्मा त्वं गिरिजामते सहचराः प्राणाः शरीरं ग्रहम् पूजा ते विषयोपभोगरचना निद्रा समाधिस्थितिः सञ्चारः पतियोः प्रदक्षिणविधि स्तोत्राणि सर्वा गिरो यत् कर्म करोमि तत् अखिलं शम्भो तवाराधनम् करचरणकृतं वा कायजं कर्मजं वा श्रवणनयनजं वा मानसं वापराधम् विहितमविहितं वा सर्वमेतच्छमस्व जय जय करुणाब्धे श्री महादेव शम्भो दातो न माता न बन्धुर्न दाता न पुत्रो न पुत्री न भृत्यो न भर्ता न जाया न वेद्या न वृत्तिर्ममैव गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि भवाब्धावपारे महादुःखभीरो प्रपात प्रकामी प्रलोभी प्रमत्ता कुसंसारपाश प्रबद्धः सदाहम् गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि न जानामि दानं न च ध्यानयोगम् न जानामि तन्त्रं न च स्तोत्रमन्त्रम् न जानामि पूजां न च न्यासयोगम् गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि न जानामि पुण्यं न जानामि तीर्थम् न जानामि मुक्तिं लयं वा कदाचित् न जानामि भक्तिं व्रतं वापि माता गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानि कुकर्मी कुसङ्गी कुबुद्धि कुदास कुलाचारहीन कदाचारलीन कुदृष्टि कुवाक्य प्रवन्द सदाहम् गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी प्रजेशं रमेशं महेशं सुरेशं दिनेशं निशीथेश्वरं वा कदाचित् न जानामि चान्यत् सदाहं शरण्ये गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी विवादे विषादे प्रमादे प्रवासे जले चानले पर्वते शत्रुमध्ये अरण्ये शरण्ये सदा मां प्रपाहि गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी अनाथो दरिद्रो जरारोगयुक्तो महाक्षीणदीन सदा जाड्यवक्त्रा विपत्तौ प्रविष्ट प्रणष्ट सदाहम् गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका भवानी गतिस्त्वं गतिस्त्वं त्वमेका
शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं नित्योऽहं शुद्धोऽहं बुद्धोऽहं मुक्तोऽहं नित्योऽहं शुद्धोऽहं बुद्धोऽहं मुक्तोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं नित्योऽहं शुद्धोऽहं बुद्धोऽहं मुक्तोऽहं नित्योऽहं शुद्धोऽहं बुद्धोऽहं मुक्तोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहम् अद्वैतमानन्द रूपं अरूपम् अद्वैतमानन्द रूपं अरूपम् ब्रह्मोऽहं ब्रह्मोऽहं ब्रह्मस्वरूपोऽहं ब्रह्मोऽहं ब्रह्मोऽहं ब्रह्मस्वरूपोऽहं चिदोऽहं चिदोऽहं सच्चिदानन्दोऽहं चिदोऽहं चिदोऽहं सच्चिदानन्दोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं नित्योऽहं शुद्धोऽहं बुद्धोऽहं मुक्तोऽहं नित्योऽहं शुद्धोऽहं बुद्धोऽहं मुक्तोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं शिवस्वरूपोऽहं चित्तानि नाहं न च श्रोत्रजिह्वे न च घ्राणनेत्रे न च व्योमभूमिर्न तेजो न वायु चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न च प्राणसंज्ञो न वै पञ्चवायु न वा सप्तधातु न वा पञ्चकोश न वाक्पाणिपादं न चोपस्तपायु चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न मे द्वेषरागो न मे लोभमोहो मदोर्नैव मे नैव मात्सर्यभावः न धर्मो न चार्थो न कामो न मोक्षः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न पुण्यं न पापं न सौख्यं न दुःखं न मन्त्रो न तीर्थं न वेदा न यज्ञ अहं भोजनं नैव भोज्यं न भोक्ता चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न मृत्युर्न शङ्का न मे जातिभेदः पिता नैव मे नैव माता न जन्म न बन्धो न मित्रं गुरो नैव शिष्य चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् अहं निर्विकल्पः सर्वेन्द्रियाणां न च सङ्गतं नैव मुक्तिर्न मेया चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं 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 शिवोऽहम्
ब्रह्ममुरारिसुरार्चितलिङ्गम् निर्मलभासितशोभितलिङ्गम् जन्मज दुःखविनाशकलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् देवमुनि प्रवरार्चितलिङ्गम् कामदहन करुणाकरलिङ्गम् रावणदर्पविनाशनलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् सर्वसुगन्धिसुलेपितलिङ्गम् बुद्धिविवर्धनकारणलिङ्गम् सिद्धसुरासुरवन्दितलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् कनकमहामणिभूषितलिङ्गम् फणिपतिवेष्टितशोभितलिङ्गम् दक्षसुयज्ञविनाशकलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् कुङ्कुमचन्दनलेपितलिङ्गम् पङ्कजहारसुशोभितलिङ्गम् सञ्चितपापविनाशकलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् देवगणार्चितसेवितलिङ्गम् भावैर्भक्तिभिरेव च लिङ्गम् दिनकरकोटिप्रभाकरलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् अष्टदलोपरिवेष्टितलिङ्गम् सर्वसमोद्भवकारणलिङ्गम् अष्टतरेत्रविनाशकलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् सुरगुरुसुरवरपूजितलिङ्गम् सुरवनपुष्पसदार्चितलिङ्गम् परमपदं परमात्मकलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम् तत्प्रणमामि सदा शिवलिङ्गम्
Now, just begin to do the balancing and grounding on your own. And have a good evening, everybody. Good night.